Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. The Balagan is back. I'm very excited to hear the young voices, to hear all of you together. Today was a big vaccination day. How many of our young people got vaccinated today? Put up your hand if you did. A few of you. That's awesome. And it is such a joy to be together as families, as community, as we get to hear our young people sing. So, what a joy to be together with our 5th and 6th graders and our youth choir, to have the youth choir back again. The band is back together again, and it is a joy to join together. And when we are so excited to join together, we say words from our tradition. Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good and how pleasant it is when siblings dwell together in peace. If you are looking to find those words, you can find them in your Siddur on page 45. And it's a joy now to call upon our 5th graders and our 6th graders to ascend to the bima so that you can lead us all in Hine Matov.
Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How sweet it is together on this day. How sweet it is be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Umanayim shevet achim gam.
When we're together, not only can we sense a sense of warmth and goodness when we are joined together as brothers and sisters, but it brings light. There is so much light when we're together. And it's now a joy to call upon Cantor Berman and Elliot Berman to ascend to the bima as they have the honor of lighting our Shabbat candles, because they have brought so much light into our community, into our congregation. And so we are going to turn to these words that can be found now in your Siddur on page 2. God, you are the light by which we see the ones we love. As we kindle these lights, we begin a holy time. May we find in it refreshment of body and spirit, and the sense that you are near to us at all times.
We sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are going to turn now to page 5 in our Siddur as we turn to Lechad Odi. Lechad Odi is a prayer that was composed in the town of Sfat in Israel. It's a mystical experience, not only in the writing of this prayer, but also in the singing of it. In synagogues all around the world, L'chad Odi was the moment in which we transitioned from Kabbalat Shabbat into our regular Shabbat. And that was a time in which we would greet not only those who had something weighing on their hearts heavily as they would enter into the sanctuary, but it's a time in which we welcome the Sabbath bride and those angels into our homes and into our lives. And so it is a custom in synagogues around the world that as we get to this final verse, Bo'ī v'Shalom, that we stand up and we face the door through which we entered, and we bow and we say, Bo'ī Kala, to welcome the Sabbath bride. Let's do that together when we get to that final verse. And let's join together in the singing of L'chad Odi on page 5.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela la la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dabur echad, hishmianu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litila la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori, uri shir daberi, kivod Adonai alayich nigila la la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
Please rise and we'll face the door.
Bo'ī v'Shalom ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha uvetzona, tol chemunei am segula. Bo'ī chala, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
Let us read responsively now at the bottom of page 6. The sun on the treetops is no longer seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen.
Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest.
Draw near, O Queen, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. We turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish, which can be found on page 7.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, uv'izman kahari, ve'imeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'alam le'ol me'al maya yitbach. ויתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו Amen.
A famous pianist was once asked how he handled the notes so well. And the pianist answered that he handled the notes no better than others, but that the pauses between the notes, that was where the art resided. We are going to continue now with the call to worship that's going to be led by our 5th and 6th graders.
Lai lai la la lai lai lai, ya la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai. Baruchu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed, Le'olam Va'ed. Lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai. Lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai.
We continue reading in the Hebrew on page 9. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteim berakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. We read together, or rather we read responsibly at the bottom of page 12. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by the covenant of Abraham and Sarah. We are guided by the still small voice within us. We are warmed by the light of Torah.
We are loved by an unending love, an eternal flame, a ner tamid, to be tended from generation to generation, an eternal love and a gentle love.
The love of a parent for a child, giving meaning to our lives, the love of Abraham and of Sarah, and of all the generations who have embraced their covenant. Blessed are you, O God, who loves our people Israel with an unending love. Page 13.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. We will know that you are. Let's sing it again. Open up our eyes. Open up our eyes. Teach us how to live. Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have. Gather us in peace. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. We will know that you are one.
We turn now to the words of the Shema led by our 5th and 6th graders.
Here we go, ready? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We now continue with Ve'ahavta on page 15. No, 5th and 6th graders, sorry, you're not off the hook just yet. Let's turn to Ve'ahavta on page 15.
You shall love the Lord your God with all your soul and with all of your might. Hold on tight as you go, teach them what you know. Teach them as they grow. Teach them so they know. Teach them so they know.
There are moments in which we have the opportunity to witness small miracles. There's a story about two who were in the wilderness with the Israelites through Sinai as they were wandering. When the Israelites came upon the Sea of Reeds and the Egyptians were closing in behind them, the sea parted in front of them, and as the Israelites were marching through, these two were complaining about everything that they saw. They were complaining about the stickiness of the mud underneath their feet. They were complaining at the smell of the sulfur. They were complaining at the fact their hair was filled with salt and water. They're complaining at the smell and the sights of the fish that were swimming in the sea beside them. And they complained this way all the way from one side of the sea to the other. When they got to the other side, along with all of their friends and neighbors had looked back at the miracle that had just occurred before them. And those two asked the question, what are you singing about? What did you see that was so great? Sometimes there are things that are in front of us that are extraordinary. This moment is one of them, seeing a sanctuary that is filled with people and hearing the sounds of children. To hear those sounds is particularly meaningful. And so when our ancestors got to the other side of the sea, they sang, and we should sing with them. And it is a miracle to hear our youth choir sing and lead us once again. So let us listen to them lead us in Micha Mocha.
Here's a new Micha Mocha for Congregation Shalom, written by yours truly, led by the youth choir. 1, 2, 3. Who's like you? Who's like you? Adonai. Who's like you? Who's like you? Everybody now. Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you? Last time. Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you.
Are you sure we can't do that one more time, Cantor? One more time?
1, 2, 3, 4. Who's like you? Who's like you? Adonai. Who's like you? Who's like you?
Well, that is an earworm, Cantor. I think you've got a hit. That's right. All right, we are going to turn now to page 19. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, ve'amidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Fros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Join me now in the reading in the English on page 19. Help us to lie down, Adonai, in peace, and let us awake full of life. Keep us safe under your shelter of peace. Blessed are you, source of kindness and love, who spreads a sukkah of peace over us, over Jerusalem, and over all who live on earth. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'orotam berit olam beini v'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki et yamim asayim ve'et haaretz uvayom ha'chi Shabbat vayina.
Please rise.
Are we on page 21, Rabbi?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim ve'rofei cholim. Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, micha mocha ba'al gevurot, umito melach, melech memit, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You may be seated, and we read now responsively at the top of page 28, the words of prayer are hopes, the hopes of prayer are wishes. The wishes of prayer are dreams, and the dreams of prayer are made real by the will of those who pray. What is prayer but God speaking to us through our own voices, and the words of God can be heard through the tongues of all human beings, for the ways of God are as deep as love. Top of page 30, eternal God, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, the awareness of soul, our light within, the world around us so filled with beauty and the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these gifts and more, we thank and bless you, the source of all goodness. We turn now to our youth choir as they lead us in Shalom Rav on page 31.
Tasim leolam, Shalom Rabba Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom, shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam, shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam, tasim leolam, leolam.
There's something truly beautiful about hearing those words of peace expressed in song by our young people. You can feel a sense of peace throughout the sanctuary as well. So take a deep breath in and let it out. And let us take time now for the prayers of our own hearts.
Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom Roma Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Come on. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen.
You may be seated. It's wonderful to hear that Oseh Shalom that was written by our very own Ben Keen. It's important for us to take moments as we think of peace and we think of shalom, to also take a moment to think of shalem, to think of wholeness, particularly with members of our community and our congregation and our friends all around the world who might be in need of healing at this time. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of these dear people, thinking of Shendel Batfrida Malka, Shirley Graham, Laura Bublitz, Keturah Bublitz, Ari Bublitz, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Carrie Yudkovich, Otto Feller, Samsara Vizcaya, Sharon Rotman, Eliyahu Ben Maxon Nemela, Bob Ratke, Lyle Rubel, Mark Cook, Moshe Ben Nechama, Gene Boss, Alan Turner, Steve Toplinsky, Myron Dvorkin, Esther Cohen, Lauren Cheris, Matt Cheris, Lisa Furstad, Terry Finch, Harav, Ilana Miriam Bakhava, Faye Levin, Sarah Chelba Yocheved Alexander, David Feldner, Prue Precourt, Linda Berlin, Alan Elias, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, Avram Ben Naftali, Emma and Max, Doug Cruz, Nadiva Sarah Bat Liba, Sharon Rothstein, Devorah Bat Yehuda Malkus, Judy Naiman, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Marilyn Harmon, Mark Berlin, Chris St. Martin, Ellen Futterman, Mark Ackerman, Gilbert Offenhartz, Risa Cyril Bat David Vechaya Ita, Barry Bursack, Debbie Kelly, Gilbert Offenhartz, Janet Meister, Michael Messi. If there are names that should be added to this list or that should be pronounced differently, I invite you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to the words of Mishaberach, which can be found on page 35.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mikor HaBracha Le'imoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Let's sing a little more together now. Mishaberach Imoteinu Mikor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us all say, Amen.
Thank you, Cantor, for those beautiful words of healing. So we have a little bit of a story tonight for our 5th and 6th grade Shabbat. And we have a lot of stories in our tradition. We tell them all the time. We tell the stories of our ancestors, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And these stories, they teach us how Jews lived in those times. And the stories are human, too. They show us how human our ancestors were, and that it's okay for us to be as well. And sometimes humans can do some questionable things, but usually we can figure it out and make it right in the end. So let's hear about a man from Pinsk and see if he is able to do the right thing. So there once was a man from Pinsk, and he had a dancing bear. And he went to the town of Minsk, where all the people were, and he went to the center of the square with his dancing bear, and he introduced this dancing bear to the whole town of Minsk. And he said, I, a man from Pinsk, have brought you this dancing bear. And he stood in the center of the square, and he began to play some music. And the bear began to dance. And he boogied to the left, and he boogied to the right, and he leaped, and he twirled, and he danced all night. And a woman from Minsk walked up to him. She was watching in the crowd, and she said, we are sophisticated people in Minsk, not like you peasants in Pinsk. And a dancing bear just is not a big deal here. So what else can your bear do? And the man thought for a second, and he said, well, if you really want to know, I'll tell you a secret. My dancing bear can daven mincha. He can lead the afternoon service. And the woman from Minsk said, I don't believe you. Would you believe a dancing bear that could lead services? Kind of crazy, huh? Yeah. So the man from Pinsk said to her, it's certainly true. And she said, prove it. And he said, okay, I can do that, but let's make this a little bit more interesting. And he said, let's make a bet. Let's bet on it. And the woman from Minsk said, ooh, that's a great idea. Let's make a bet. But what will we bet on? And she said, I know. We have the finest artwork in all the land. We have the best artist. And this artist painted a beautiful picture. We'll put our most prized picture up. And it is a picture of the sky and the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees in the autumn. It's got beautiful, vibrant greens and blues and reds and oranges and yellows. And the man from Pinsk said, art? What can I do with art but look at it? And the man from Pinsk said, no, we have the best chocolate makers in all the land. We have a wonderful chocolate shop, and people come from all over the world to taste our finest chocolates. And the woman from Minsk said, no, not chocolate. We'll eat the chocolate, and then what will we have? And she said, I know. We will bet on our finest jewelry. And she had rings of gold and silver, and they had the most beautiful stones of rubies and emeralds and sapphires and diamonds. And the man from Pinsk said, yes, let's bet using our finest jewels. And so everyone was very excited. The people all over Minsk went and told everyone else everything they had seen that day. And a young man went to the butcher's shop, and he whispered to the people in line, did you see what happened today in the square? There was a man from Pinsk, and he had a dancing bear. And the people said, no, we missed it. And he said, the man from Pinsk said, I have a dancing bear. Not only do I have a dancing bear, I have a bear that can lead services. I have a bear that can lead mincha services. And the people said, no way, not a chance. There's no way that a bear can lead services. And an elderly woman went to the cobbler's to get her shoes fixed, and she talked to the cobbler, and she said, did you see what happened in the square? Did you see the dancing bear today? And he said, no, I didn't. And she said, he's going to lead mincha services tomorrow. And the man said, really? Do you think it's true? Do you think he can do it? And the people all over Minsk were running to and fro to listen, to tell everyone this story. They were all so excited. There were some people who believed, and they had big smiles, and their eyes were open wide and bright, and they talked about it very loudly, very excitedly. And there were also some people in the town of Minsk who didn't believe, and they crossed their arms, and they turned away, and they said, "Not a chance. A bear surely can't lead mincha services." And so, the next morning, it was all anyone in the town could talk about. They were so excited. And the people all around were talking about the man from Pinsk and the dancing, davening bear. Finally, it was afternoon, and all of the people of the town of Minsk gathered in the great synagogue of Minsk. There was not a seat open. Everyone was there. And there were so many people. There were people outside of the synagogue as well, and they were standing at the door, and they were standing up on their tiptoes and craning their necks and trying to see in the windows. And it was just about time for the services to start. And when it was time, the doors flew wide open. They flew so wide open, and that bear stood nice and tall and stood and walked right into the synagogue, all 7 feet of him. And the people of Minsk looked around and whispered to each other. They were interested to see, would he be able to do it? Could he daven mincha? Could he lead them in services? And the bear went up to the podium. He went up to the front of the synagogue and stood on the bima and grabbed a prayer book from the usher in his big paw, and he opened the prayer book, and the man from Pinsk nodded at him, and he began. He opened it to the page, and he looked down, and he said, "Arr!" And he turned to the next page, and he said, "Arr! Arr!" And the people of Minsk gasped. They couldn't believe it. And they started to pray. And this went on. The people were praying, and the bear was saying, "Arr!" and going all through the service until they got to the end. Arr! And the people of Minsk were amazed. They couldn't believe it. This bear had led them in services. And so the woman from Minsk gave the finest jewels that she had to the man from Pinsk because the bear had davened mincha. And she was turning to leave, and she looked at the man from Pinsk and turned around and said, "How did you do it? In all my years, I've never seen anything like it, and I've never heard of it. How did you teach your bear to lead services?" And the man from Pinsk said, "It's simple. I took the prayer book, opened it to the right page, and put a dab of honey on the page. And I gave it to the bear, and he licked the honey off. And I took the book back, and I turned the page, and I put another dab of honey there. And I gave it back to the bear, and he licked that dab of honey off too." And the woman looked at him and said, "But the prayer book that we gave you, there was no honey on it." And he said, "Exactly." The bear looked at the page and saw there was no honey there, and he said, "Arr!" And he turned a page and no honey, "Arr!" And that's how he davened services. And this story is a story that can teach us something. And sometimes when we have stories like this, we can learn what not to do. So the man from Pinsk was able to trick the woman from Minsk. He was able to get the bear to lead services and gain the riches from her, but that wasn't really the right thing to do. Have you ever had a time in your life where you knew that you could be right, but you might have to trick someone to do it? Have you ever felt not great about it? Did it feel honest? Was it okay? Well, sometimes, all times when we lie, it doesn't feel good. Sometimes our tummies hurt and our hearts race really fast and we get sweaty palms because lying doesn't really feel good. Then you have to think about what you said to the person and remember it and say it right for the next time. But if you tell the truth, it feels a lot better. So then you don't have to think so much about it, and you can just be open and honest and say what you have to say. So the man from Pinsk, even though he got the jewels, he did the wrong thing. And we know that it's really important for us to be able to tell the truth and be honest, and that way we can make sure that we have the interest of the entire community in our thoughts as well. Shabbat Shalom.
A bear leading services. Imagine the possibilities.
Oh!
How long did it take you to come up with that?
Bear with me, Rabbi.
Oh, no.
I'm here all week, folks. There is sweetness on every page of our Siddur. Whether there's honey on it or not, we can find a sense of sweetness. And there are moments that are sweet too, moments of celebration. So we're going to invite anyone who's had a birthday in the month of November, if you'd like to come forward to open up our Ark doors and receive a very special candy from us as a congregation, only if you've had a birthday in November. Only if you have a birthday in November. And if you don't have a birthday in November, at the end of the service, you can come and get some smaller lollipops from us as well. But please come up forward. By the way, that doesn't mean just young of age. It also means young of heart and young of spirit. Some of you have had birthdays in November who are older than the age of B'nai Mitzvah. If you'd like to come up and receive one too, and receive a blessing from the community, please do. But we're going to turn now to Aleinu, which can be found in your service. On page 37, and we're going to rise together as a community as all of our birthday, people celebrating their birthdays will open up our Ark doors.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tei kedula le'yotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
And before you return to your seats, we have the opportunity to bless you with Shehechianu, as well as we can sing all of us Yom Haledet Sameach. Are you ready? Let's sing Shehechianu for all those who've had a birthday in the month of November.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
People to go sit by your parents, whether you're in the youth choir or 5th and 6th grade as well, as we sing Yom Haledet Sameach. You may be seated.
Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach. Yai da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 dai.
You know, Rabbi, I think the kids were much more honest about whose birthday it was because of the story you told. No tricking with lollipops. Everybody gets a lollipop later. But one of the greatest blessings that we have, one of the sweetness that we experience on Shabbat is the opportunity for our hearts to be turned one to the other. And so if you are a parent or a grandparent sitting with your child or your grandchild, I invite you to place your hand upon your child or your grandchild's head. If you are sitting next to somebody who is a friend, somebody that you love and feel connected to, we invite you to do the same with the person sitting next to you. And if you would repeat these words after me. Yisa Adonai,
Yisa Adonai,
Panav Elecha,
Panav Elecha,
V'yasem Lecha,
V'yasem Lecha,
Shalom.
Shalom.
May God always smile upon you
May God always smile upon you
and bless you with God's choicest of blessings,
and bless you with God's choicest of blessings.
the blessing of Shalom. And now, if kids and grandkids, if you could place your hands upon your parent or your grandparent's head or your friend's head and repeat after me. May God bless the love between you and me. Say amen. You can give a hug and a kiss or a handshake, whatever's appropriate. Now, if you would stay with your parents now, you know, it's important for us not only to feel the hands of our parents upon our heads, but to feel the presence of loved ones who have passed over, who have passed on. We can still feel the presence of those for whom we have loved as we walk in their footsteps. And so we turn now from celebration of life to a celebration of eternal life as we think of those who have passed into life eternal. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we think of those who have passed away during the period of Shiva and Shloshim. We are thinking of Muriel Kritzik, Jean Robertson, and Mindy Spitz. We also think of those who have passed away in seasons gone by. And though they have passed in seasons gone by, we still feel their presence with us in moments such as these, moments when we gather together. Whether we feel their absence or we feel their presence as well, we sanctify that memory. Particularly, we are thinking of the yard sites of Sally Pearl Oskotsky, George Batch, Jerome Berman, Fern Blatt, Annie Bookstaff, David Chickarell, William Sorolski, David Daniels, Sarah Feen, Arthur Friedman, Paul Frabe, Ben Gelman, Harold Gimbel, Marvin Glickman, Lillian Goldberg, Alana Goldman, Douglas Goldman, Jennifer Goldman, Joy Goldman, Isidore Green, Shirley Jacobson, Manny Katz, Sigmund Kaufman, Stanley Kierking, Esther Lacombe, Emily Luber, Dorothy Labotsky, Teresa Lustig, Martin Marcus, Rose Margolis, Rosalind Markowitz, Edward Matris, Morris Messerman, James Minesh, Velma Minesh, Terrain Nash, Regina Neufeld, Cherna Paley, Richard Pash, Fred Pearson, Wilson Phillips, Barbara Pozorski, Irvin Pumpian, Sarah Raffel, Stuart Rothman, Alvin Irving Rotman, Paul Sattler, Gary Shovers, Joseph Schulman, Tilly Smith, Michael Spector, Norman Weiss, Nathan Werner, Calvin Willinson, Eva Zoll, Dr. Norton Zerum, Lillian Henkin Zembrowski, Della Zimmerman. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please do say those names out loud as I look in your direction. In addition to the names that we have read, we so too think of all those who have died due to war and/or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who have died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our world, as well as those who have perished due to the virus of racism and xenophobia. We also think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 39. We rise together as one community as we recite these sacred words. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach chirutei v'amlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yit barach v'ishtabach v'itpa'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh. V'itadar v'italev v'italal Shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'miran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Ose Shalom B'imromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Now it's a joy to call upon our congregational president, Brent Arnold, to share some announcements on behalf of the congregation. Shabbat Shalom, Brent. It's good to share the bima with you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, 5th graders, 6th graders, our amazing teachers, parents, and all our other congregants and guests that are here with us tonight. You know, I woke up this morning and did something I haven't done in a really long time. I got up early and I went to the JCC to work out this morning. I hadn't been there in about 2 whole years. I jumped up on the elliptical machine, put my headphones on, and had a really awesome workout. It felt so great to be back working out, sweating again, and moving to the beat of the music. Now, I'll be honest, at 5 a.m. it still felt pretty empty, and the treadmills weren't exactly filled up the way I remember them. But it still felt really great to be back. I hope you all have those same feelings tonight about being back at Congregation Shalom. I hope you feel the excitement of seeing the congregants around you, feel the energy of our youth learning and leading us in prayer, and I hope you all leave here tonight inspired to take one more little step to getting back to everything that feels so good in our lives. We all need that, and Congregation Shalom wants to help you on your journey back. 5th and 6th grade students, I want to thank you all for leading us tonight in prayer. There is no better feeling than learning from our youth. And you have so much to teach us. You do it with such energy and spirit. Thanks to all the teachers and madrichim for inspiring them to learn. And thanks to our Director of Lifelong Learning, Brian Avner, and our entire clergy for their knowledge and guidance of the entire religious school. We are so pleased with the start of the school year and look forward to all the great things still to come this year. Next, I want to thank David Wolfson and Adam Peck as they and our Dainu Circle plan for a potential Jewish community solar farm. It is a very exciting project that will help offset the energy costs here at Congregation Shalom. We also recently got our building registered in Energy Star as a score of 88 out of 100. It turns out we scored 14 points higher than the baseline energy score for similar worship facilities. We are also working on creating a new butterfly garden on the south side of our building. Our students will have the opportunity to get involved with that project as well. The Dayenu Circle is also working on developing a composting program for Congregation Shalom to begin diverting food waste away from landfills. I am also very pleased to report that our Social Action Committee is still out repairing our world. At their meeting this week, they discussed, once again, how to get more involved with St. Ben's food program, the guest house, and Cathedral Center. They also discussed how to get involved with the Wisconsin Jews for Refugees program, which is working hard to provide necessary goods and clothing to welcome our new Afghan refugees. We are also partnering with Tikkun Ha'ir on a holidays gifts drive where we are collecting new women's clothes and socks until December 20th. The next Shalom Voices for Justice meeting is on Tuesday, November 16th at 7 o'clock, where we will be discussing voting rights for all. Choir practice started back up on Monday nights at 7 o'clock p.m., so reach out to Cantor Perper if you have thoughts on joining the choir. A reminder that What's New continues every Thursday at 10 a.m. and provides adult education and discusses each week's current events. The gift shop is open and has much more items than just candy for you 5th and 6th graders. Bagels, Books, and Babies will return on Saturday, November 20th at 9 a.m. Our annual Thanksgiving service is on Sunday, November 21st at 7 o'clock at the North Shore Presbyterian Church in Shorewood. Our family Hanukkah service will be on Friday, December 3rd. And don't forget, religious school continues on Sunday morning at 9:30 right here at Congregation Shalom. Then next week, November 14th, will be our Learning Day at Rainbow Day Camp. A last reminder to please fill out the High Holy Day Survey if you haven't done that yet. We would love to get your feedback on how we can make your holiday experience even better. I really love all the great things going on here at Congregation Shalom. We welcome you all to keep coming back and get involved in something that sparks your passion. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So one quick note, actually the High Holiday Survey is closed, but if you love filling out forms, there is a new program, a new initiative that we're starting here at Congregation Shalom called Kishrei Shalom, which is talking about connections and different connections that we can make as community and as individuals. And if you want to fill that out and share maybe some of the things you're interested in, there are suggestions, like all kinds of things that people are interested in doing. But there's also a place for you to suggest your own areas of connections. And I know that there are so many of you who have interests and needs that you wish to, create community around. This is an opportunity to do that together. And it's a really joyous project and initiative that's brought to us by Rabbi Kozlowski. So please do fill that form out. You can find the link on our website, or you can review some of the emails that have come through. One thing that really is a connector here at our congregation, and perhaps one among the most important things that we do, is providing for a next generation, teaching our young people to make sure that there is a community that grows in our values and ideals, l'dor v'dor, from one generation to the next. And that's why our teachers are so important to us at Congregation Shalom. Roger Karp, our 5th grade teacher, is an extraordinary master teacher, and he deserves that applause. And we're going to invite Roger to come up and lead us in the Kiddush. I hope somebody told you. But if you'd like to lift up the Kiddush cup and sing the blessing along with our cantor, I'm going to invite you all to rise. Actually, when I was growing up at my school, whenever a teacher entered into the room in our classroom, we had to rise. So it makes sense that we're rising now. And to be able to do that for Roger. We're also really proud of our 6th grade teacher, Mora Aviva, for all of the extraordinary work that she's done. So thank you, Roger, for being such a wonderful teacher, and let's join Roger in the singing of the blessing over the wine.
May I first thank the families of the 5th and 6th graders whom I teach this year and taught last year. I want to thank you for the privilege and the pleasure of allowing me to guide your sons and daughters into the future. I also want to thank Brian Avner, Wendy Cohen, and Kendra Perper for preparing our students so beautifully tonight. It's a joy to see what our future will look like. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho be'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
So good.
Thank you to Miss Wendy, thank you to Cantor Purper, and thank you to our youth choir, our 5th and 6th graders. We're going to call our youth choir back up one more time as they have the honor of closing out our service with our closing song. All of you can join in with them. You know the words. The words are Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Everybody together. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If there are any kids that it wasn't their birthday this month, if you still want to come grab a lollipop, come on up. I think you're right. I'll get you a big lollipop. What do you